DDG presents E3 2021 opening weekend. My name is Dave Hunt, and I'm joined by Michael Swick.
How's it going, Dave? It almost feels like real E3, except we're not in a room together recording this at either 5 in the morning
Right.
or 2 a.m.
Yeah, there's definitely like that press conference blitz feel of like, okay, you got like, even today, it's like, oh, I got like 40 minutes to like figure out what I'm going to do before this next press conference. And it it was nice to be at home on the couch watching these things, but definitely missed the experience of being there live in person for sure.
But it was pretty good. Like
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy with what we've seen so far. I mean, we technically still have 2 days, but as far as I'm concerned, E3 is pretty much done if you look at like the schedule that ESA's put out. But I'm surprised with how much I enjoyed the shows. It seems like most publishers, developers, they figured out after last year how to put on a show. Not everything was perfect, but significantly better than what we got last year.
Yeah. All right. So we are Digital Days Gaming. We are typically a weekly show that updates on Thursdays on podcast networks, but it's obviously E3 week, so we are live on Twitch, twitch.tv/Digital Days Gaming, where you can watch us live. Typically Tuesdays we record our weekly show. We plan to do that again this week. So we'll be back like in 2 days, but E3 is obviously special for everybody, and we try to record as much content as we can, or as that we think is needed. And looking at the lineup, we decided to record this Sunday after Summer Game Fest, Ubisoft, Microsoft, Bethesda, Square, a couple other things sprinkled in there, but those are the big heavy hitters that were going. We will record our next one after the Nintendo Direct and try to do like a semi-normal episode with what we're playing and watching with a little bit of news, and the news will probably be like the Nintendo Direct and any other small sprinkles that come out over the next 48 hours. But this will be a little heavy on obviously game announcements, release dates, impressions, thoughts. Really obviously no hands-on impressions, but impressions of what we saw. So we're going to throw it over to Michael, and he's going to start with the Summer Games Fest.
All right, Summer Games Fest happened, I believe that was Thursday. Everything's kind of a blur, but It was Thursday when that happened. This was Jeff Keighley's show. It turns out there's a lot of drama about that. Like, Jeff Keighley even applied to co-stream E3 and he was rejected, which is kind of crazy. So there's clearly some sort of bad blood. It might not be going both ways, but it's definitely present. So Jeff Keighley stepped up his game for this year's Summer Games Fest, way more like defined on what's going to happen there, and he did bring some pretty big announcements. He definitely won some stuff over the ESA potentially. The first one being Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, which is going to be a new entry in the Borderlands franchise, or it's a spin-off of the Borderlands franchise. It's still going to be a looter shooter, but it's going to have different mechanics going on. Obviously, because it's Tiny Tina's Wonderland, you already know what you're kind of getting in terms of, humor, style sort of thing based on that character. Mixed things. We didn't really see much, and then there was a Gearbox thing, but it was really more focused on the movie. But I know, talking to my friends that are diehards, some of them are really excited, and some of them are like, why'd they pick Tiny Tina? And Dave knows a little bit more about Borderlands, or he's played a little bit more than I have, but not much.
Yeah. I mean, their spinoffs haven't been as good. I think that the one that went to the moon, I can't remember the name of it, but between the pre-sequel, wasn't it called or something?
Yeah.
I don't think that one was received as well. I do remember Borderlands 2 Tiny Tina DLC being perceived really well. So in terms of like a character that you can build on, the thing that I took away from that is I feel like they spent more time telling us who's going to be a voice actor in it than they did telling us what the game is.
Yeah, they had Ashley Birch, who's been the voice actress for Tiny Tina for since the beginning. That happened a lot, I feel like, in Summer Games Fest. They would bring someone to the stage, but they wouldn't really necessarily bring anything to show. They would just be there to be like, yeah, I worked on the game. But they do promise
even the trailer though
had
more voice actors' names in it. I was like, is this? At first, I thought it was the movie.
Yeah, no, it's definitely weird how they presented that. It didn't seem like they had a ton of stuff to show.
It's just concerning to me when your focal point of your game announcement is who your voice actors are and not what your game is.
Yeah, especially like Ashley Birch is like big into the video game voice acting scene, and she does, acting. She's in like Mythic Quest and
Uh-huh.
all sorts of things. But it's definitely one of those things where she's kind of established herself at the part where it's almost a given that she's going to be in your video game. She's kind of hit that like Troy Baker, Nolan North level where it's just like, oh, of course Ashley Birch is in this game.
Right.
So them focusing on that is just kind of like, oh, okay. But I wish we could talk more about it, but I don't feel like they really showed enough. And I'm not going to go beat by beat on what we saw during
Right.
the Summer Games Fest. I will gloss over things. And if Dave sees something or I forget to mention something, feel free to jump in. But the next announcement that I thought was interesting or big was, of course, the Death Stranding director's cut. That it trolled Metal Gear fans. I mean, Kojima had to show up. It was a Jeff Keighley show. They're
Right.
they're they're best friends. Uh, I have so many questions about this. So this is coming to PS5, and it's going to be the definitive version of the game. It's the director's cut. At no point playing Death Stranding did I think, oh man, I would prefer to see his vision of this game, or the idea that anyone edited anything out of that game to me is just like insane. Like
Yeah.
that did not happen. That didn't need to happen.
I feel like this is just their way of getting it on PS5.
Yeah, this is definitely
Their
their
excuse to put it on PS5.
yeah, this is their 60 frames. They couldn't say Game of the Year edition because there's no DLC, and if you say Game of the Year edition, that kind of
Right.
means like all the DLC. So I guess there'll be some additional stuff in this. We'll see more about it. They teased the Metal Gear stuff, but that I think that's just Kojima trolling. I don't think this is going
Yeah.
to be
The
a
box thing. Yeah, I was like, okay.
yeah. I don't think this is going to be like a Metal Gear 2 situation where they like swerve us, closer to the game's launch and be like, it's completely different. This is definitely just one of those. He knows all the rumors have been flying around. Probably annoys the shit out of him that all the rumors are happening.
Right.
But he got back and did some trolling. I wouldn't say this next game is anything too big, but it had the weirdest intro. Jurassic World Evolution 2. Yeah, Jeff Goldblum introducing this. And I could not tell if Jeff Keighley was. He had to be reacting to a pre recorded video, right? Because that thing was just so awkward.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much this is like Roller Coaster Tycoon, but Jurassic Park, right? That's what this game is, and it's just
Yeah.
it's just an evolution of the game, which is fine. I think it's kind of cool that you can make a Jurassic Park. There's a lot of people that like that style of game, and there's some people, at least that I followed on Twitter, that seem to be pretty excited or animated that it came out or that it got announced. So
Yeah, the first one was on Game Pass. I messed with it a little bit. I don't know if it's still on Game Pass, but it seemed cool for those simulation
right,
sort of
there's
games.
a lot of people that
those
like that
building
stuff,
games.
Sim Cities, and like the even though like you said, the Civilization style games or the tropical games,
Roller
like
Coaster Tycoon.
yeah,
Yeah,
any city building, world building, that can be fun for a lot of people. So
for sure. We had a bunch of smaller games get announced. Nothing really popped up at me for a while. I mean, we got 2 Point Campus came up, which is one of those builder games where you're building a
hmm
college campus. This one was actually leaked on the Microsoft Store last week, so people knew it was coming, just didn't know where it was going to be announced. I believe they got some other original developers from the 2 Point like lineage to do that. I believe we got like a Call of Duty info in there too. They had a developer come out. At one point, they had someone from Overwatch come out, and then they just showed like two costumes. And Jeff Keighley, I feel like halfway through the first costume, there was like a long section of dead air to where I think Jeff Keighley was expecting him to say more, and they just didn't. Or he was expecting things to transition, and they didn't. Weird instances like that was throughout the show, but for the most part, it was a good show. Um, you got Dark Pictures anthology of House of Ashes that's coming out later this year. Uh, that game companies Sky Children of Light coming to the Switch very soon, I believe. And I feel like Sky has been out on mobile for a long time. People have just been wondering when is it going to come to console, but I guess it's coming to Switch first. Skipping along a little bit, there's a lot of stuff
Yeah.
to kind of skip. Back for Blood had a trailer, and Back for Blood was just throughout this entire weekend popping up. But the last two things on the show that everyone was excited for was the Evil Dead. That looks better than I thought it was going to be for being like a licensed property with Evil Dead.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jeff Keighley goes to end the show, and he's so fucking excited to introduce his next video and talk about the how a company trusted him to do this reveal, and it turned out it was the reveal for Elden Ring, and this was huge.
That's a huge get for Keighley and a huge get for Summer Game Fest. Period. Like a non E3. Yeah. I mean, they could have done their own event for this game if they wanted to.
They technically, like, everyone assumed this was going to be at E3 because the ESA announced Bandai Namco was going to be a partner, and Jeff Keighley was able to get Elden Ring, which is why he was so excited. And the game looked good. It looked really, really good. And I'm kind of excited for it, even though I know it's a game that I will never beat. I will probably just have my friend come over and I'll just watch him beat it, like I did with Demon's Souls.
I'm just excited that community, like the Bloodborne and the Dark Souls community, gets another game. And it's something that they've been wanting, and they've deserved for a long time. Like, and there's been a whole bunch of animosity on Twitter about how the game looked. It's not about how graphics are important, but this is a Souls game. Like, this is a kick your ass kind of game, and that's what it's gonna do. And the monsters and stuff that they showed, I thought looked really cool. Like,
yeah, I actually think visually it's the best looking game that they've made that isn't the Blue Point remaster of Demon's Souls.
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of the pressure comes from, is people saw what Blue Point did with Demon's Souls.
But this isn't a PS5 game.
Yeah, this is going to be, multiple consoles or generations.
Generations,
Yeah. I think this looked really good, and one of the things that has always kept me from, like, really finishing a Souls game is I just never really cared for their storytelling style, and George R. Martin,
right,
like the author of the books of Game of Thrones, not the TV show, working with them gives me a little bit hope that there'll be just a little bit more there to get me through it.
I've never been like I've never been a huge fan of the, like, make one mistake get killed games, like that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then, but that's also, I feel like how you beat those kind of games is like a continuous pattern where it's like, as an example, it's like slash dodge, roll, slash dodge, roll, jump, and you're just doing this, and you're kind of doing the same function each time. And I feel like if you dash instead of jump, you're dead, and then you have to start all over again. And it's just kind of one of the, like, that's the part that kind of turns me off. Is it's not necessarily the gameplay, it's the repetition within each battle that gets to me with a lot of those games. But I know people love them. Like, they absolutely love them. There's people on my friends list, like Johnny is a Boy and Vladrick, like, they love these games. And they apparently and I get it. I mean, I've had similar experiences where it's it's just that feeling of accomplishing something, getting through something is fantastic. And the feeling of it. And it seems like in these Soul Styles games, you get that every chapter or every encounter, is that you learn the pattern and you beat it, and then you take what you learned and move forward with it.
Yeah, that is like the big thing, is like the game they're hard, but if you give it time and learn patterns and learn exactly what you need to do, the game's you get into a rhythm, you get into a flow, and it's very rewarding. I'm excited to see what their collaboration with George R. Martin is. And I feel like they've said multiple different things about his role exactly in it. I think he's story advisor now, but I remember when I saw there was like a trailer thing that they brought us into at E3 like 2 or 3 years ago for this, and they kind of talked up his like collaboration a little bit more than what they're saying now.
Right.
So I don't know exactly what he did, if he built the lore, if he wrote like actual quests, but I want to see how that works out. And I was really impressed with this. I'm actually also really happy for Jeff Keighley that he got something this big.
It's arguably a top 3 surprise that we got a date this week. Like, I think, like a top 3, top 5 thing of like, oh, holy crap! Like, announced and dated. Like like that we were surprised by. Like, I mean, we knew it was coming, and then it was one of those things where, okay, it's from software. Like they take their time, as they should. But it was kind of like, wow, the fact that it was at Summer Game Fest, and then that it got dated at Summer Game Fest was great and cool.
And realistically, not too far away. January isn't that far away in the grand scheme of things of how video games are announced or reintroduced in this case. I looked a little bit more into it, and people like in industry were talking about it in terms of like, this game has actually been done for a while, but they basically took the pandemic as a reason to just like slow things down. And I hope that means we're going to get a very polished game. Not that their games have never been polished.
Yeah, I heard somebody say like, "Oh, January's the built-in delay." And they're probably right, you know.
Yeah, you do it, and you have January, and it gets delayed to March, and you can still hit.
Well, no, I'm saying they wanted October, and they're like, okay, it's going to be January, you know. Like,
yeah.
So, and I still don't think January, February is a bad time to launch a game. People have some extra cash, they have some gift cards, and then you're moving away from this oversaturation, and there's a lot. October is packed, like.
Yeah, it went from like, oh, this year might be one of the like worst years in terms of releases to, oh, October, November are completely jammed with games. So Elden Ring getting out of the way and kind of picking a perfect time of the year to release a game that needs so much time.
Yeah.
To dedicate to it is great. Overall, though, that was a Summer Game Fest. Again, we're not going to cover every little thing with these. We might go a little more in depth with the Xbox one, but the Summer Games Fest, I think it was actually a really good way to start off this whole Summer Games mess scenario for this weekend.
Yeah.
I don't know about you.
I didn't get a chance to watch it. I was at work. I kind of was just following it kind of on social media as best as I could, but a good kickoff and good exposure for some of these games that typically would have been relegated to like a B-roll or just to be on the show floor, you know?
Yeah. When you look at like all the things that were announced, it definitely was well paced in terms of like, all right, here's a big Borderlands game. Okay, here's like updates to multiplayer games. And then it ended with like the big Elden Ring, and then gave a little bit of a shine because before Elden Ring was like the Evil Dead game, which is something that like sounds cool in theory, but no one knew what that would look like exactly, and it looked okay. So Summer Games Fest set the table, and then we got a bunch of other stuff. We might talk more about some of the littler events, like the Wholesome Game Show or the Devolver Digital one, on Tuesday if we feel passionate about anything. But we're gonna jump right to Ubisoft. Ubisoft did their forward event. I don't know if this is their only forward event or if they announced they're gonna do 2 forwards. I feel like they did, but I'm not sure. But either way, I feel like if this is the only Ubisoft forward we're getting, it was a pretty good Ubisoft forward for setting the table for the rest of the year.
The first thing that I like right off the bat is that they didn't put the carriage before their horse this year. I feel like they did that last year where they wanted to come with a bunch of heavy hitters and say like what they were doing and when it was coming, and then it was delay. And now it's like they set expectations early. The coolest thing that I think they had in their show sucked because it got leaked that morning. Or I guess not the coolest surprise, I guess, was I think Mario Rabbids sequel. It's a nice, like, my son plays that game. I haven't like gone through it myself personally, but you know, Mario XCOM with Rabbids, like, it's cool. It just sucks that kind of got spoiled or leaked early. But overall, top to bottom, I thought the event was solid. I think we're going to jump right into it. I'm a little concerned about Rainbow Six Extraction.
I thought it had a good show, Rainbow Six. I think it looked pretty good. What was your concern with it?
The pacing of the game, like of the gameplay, just it seems like the different floors.
Dave's trying not to die right now, in case you're wondering.
I was doing better, feeling better until today. Like I was actually feeling really good until like this afternoon. I don't know if the humidity just killed me or whatever, but it just seemed like it's very familiar feeling to Rainbow Six, which is fine. A lot of the tools and the operators obviously are Rainbow Six Siege operators. not a huge shock there. I just worry about the variety of the levels and what they showed was very brief and small. I felt and very slow moving compared to the Division.
We're gonna need to extract Dave very soon, based on this.
I don't know what's going on. I'm sorry, guys. So
yeah, no, I didn't mind the pacing, though. I very much like that 2021 seems to be the year of Left 4 Dead clones, because it's like we have like 3 or 4 that were like reintroduced or announced this year or coming out this year. So I didn't mind the pacing. I'm interested though, because it seems like you're doing regular missions and then someone can get captured, then you have to extract them.
No, I think it's the operator. The operator
Yeah.
gets captured, and you can still continue to play, but you can't play as that operator until you save them. So
yeah, and you can lose progress or rewards based on if you don't extract them, which I want to know what that means.
I want to know what that means. I want to know how soon you have to extract. Like, can you just say, "Crap, I died, I messed up. Let me switch operators. Let me let's get through the 3rd floor of this, and then let's go back and get my operator." You know, because like if it's me, you, and someone else playing, and I make like a terrible mistake, like on the 1st or 2nd floor, I'm like, I want my guy, and the other two can be like, I want my stuff, I want my levels, you know, like. So I hope that there's enough reward for your 2 co-op partners to want to help you get your operator, or for me to help you get your operator that you lose, because then I wonder, like, what happens if Michael loses his on the extraction mission? Like,
yeah,
there's a lot of
there's
a lot of variables. Yeah.
On that, I would assume they don't permanently take them away from you, but like, do they do something as crazy as a timer, being like, oh, next game you can't pick this one for another like.
And I guess the main reason I'm concerned about that is because, and I'm not like tying myself to the title. It was originally called Quarantine. They can't call it that for reasons. But now, like, how much of the title change impacted the gameplay? Because
I don't think it did at all.
So you think that there was always going to be this type of extraction things going on?
Yes.
Okay.
That would be the only way this game could work for me, because if you want to use the mechanics that Rainbow Six Siege set up, you need to have some sort of rescue thing, because that's basically the whole premise of that. I think they just stumbled into a better name.
Don't get me wrong. I think it's super cool that you can use like the drones and the robotic things and the claymores and all the thing, like the operators that you've been using in Rainbow Six Siege for years, and using them in a PvE aspect of where you're grouping up with 3 friends. That looks really fun. I just immediately, like, and maybe this is just how I think about a looter style game, of just my first concern is like, how many rooms? What are these rooms going to look like? How many are they really going to have? How many, you know, like they were focusing very hard on the different variants of the enemies. They didn't really look that different. You know, just like those things are concerning me in terms of continued replayability that Rainbow Six Siege has been able to get in the PvP aspect of it. Can this game have enough PvE legs for that? And I don't know. Like, I mean, they've got a huge wealth of operators to dip into in the Rainbow Six world, obviously. But is that something that, you know, is that a 2-year game? Is it a 12-month game? Is it a, you know, like they're definitely.
Are they dropping all the operators that they introduced in Siege into this game and add new ones to make this not feel like an expansion?
Right.
Like
crossplay, like all of it, like I think they're doing all of it right. Just the depth of the game is concerning to
me. The next thing that they announced, but I agree with you. There's a fine line that they're gonna have to walk in terms of like appeasing the Rainbow Six Siege people to get them over, but then also the
cost and monetization and long term. Like, are the operators going to cost money later? Like, is it like, I don't want to pay another $10 if I'm going to just keep doing the same 3 levels.
And then also keeping this different enough or big enough that it doesn't just feel like an expansion for Siege.
I'm okay if it feels like an expansion for Siege because of the PvE aspect of shooting an alien through the wall, building traps, setting traps, as long as it's 3 of your buddies working together against somebody else. Because just randomly playing against people in a PvP mode can be super frustrating because you can just get your ass kicked.
Yeah. The next thing they announced, this is a big theme with the Ubisoft thing, is uh, the Ubisoft one cracked me up because after watching the Devolver one, I'm just like, oh, that's what Ubisoft's doing in terms of this like monetization,
Yeah.
monetization, monetization. Uh, and they're doing that through subscription services that you know they're hoping they can hook you in. Rocksmith Plus was announced. Makes total sense to make Rocksmith a subscription service with new songs every week. Uh, Using your phone, so you don't need extra equipment. You just need your guitar and need the app. The app will probably be free, and you subscribe to it, and then that's how you learn.
It looks like
Smart
a
way to
really
do it.
cool way to learn how to play the guitar if you're interested in it, or to get really good at
Oh,
it.
for sure.
Like,
The next thing, Writers Republic, I believe it's called. This is just
this is steep.
yeah, this is basically it's like extreme sports, the MMO, where it's just gigantic world, different ways to traverse the world, different ways to discover things in the world. It is basically everything steep and the crew set as a foundation
Yeah.
that this game was built on, and it actually looks pretty fun. In terms of like the variety and then the colorful style, and then of course when they're just like, look at all these things that you can use to customize your character, and then this, you know, just
Monetization.
monetization,
Where's
monetization.
Where's their roller derby game?
Yeah, I don't know.
I
Like
thought
Roller
that
Champion?
I originally I thought that maybe this had gotten renamed and I didn't realize it. But this is not
I don't
it.
know.
You played that roller derby game like 2 years ago.
Yeah, I played that 2 years ago for like an hour, and then they did an alpha or a beta
Yeah.
like shortly after E3, and I played it, and it seemed fun and
Mm-hmm.
promising. I don't know what happened to that.
Yeah.
That's a good question. There's a lot of
This just
games that
reminded
have
me
kind of
about
just
it. Like I
vanished.
was like, what happened to that? You know, because it looked like it was prepared to come out. Like they were like
Yeah.
on a plan to release it.
Yeah, especially they let people capture several hours of footage
Yeah.
at E3, and it's usually a good sign. We got an update on Siege. Crossplay is coming to Luna, PC, and Stadia this year, and then consoles will get their crossplay in 2022. They
Cross
hit
progression.
200, yeah, cross progression. Uh, they hit 200,000 concurrent players last week, which is crazy that
Right.
they were still able to keep those numbers. But they're going to continue to support that game. We got uh, lot of info on in terms of like what they plan to do, and it's like I think it's year 6
Mm-hmm.
of Siege. It's just kind of crazy, which is why when I look at Extraction, I'm like, are they going to have to update hand in hand when a new operator gets introduced
I
to
think that they're
Siege?
going to
Or are
be
they
able
gonna...
to. They could do two things. They could drip feed the operators from Siege into Extraction, obviously over time, over seasons, or they can use Extraction as their way to experiment for Siege.
Yeah, and I that is I think my most
Yeah.
that's the thing I'm most interested in when it comes to Extraction and Siege. Both of those games running simultaneously, because there's no reason for Ubisoft, if they're still hitting 200,000 current players as of this year, they were able to have a day or two where they had that many players. There's no reason for them to make a sequel to Siege just yet if they're still able to make enough money.
Not if they could just keep
So
building on it like they have been.
yeah. Um, After this, we got Just Dance 2022. I don't care about Just Dance, but I gotta give it to Ubisoft for sticking Todrick Hall, like a Vogue singer, I think that's the genre, in the middle of like all their shooty game trailers, to
Yep.
just be like, you know what, here's something completely different. Here's the artist talking about it and how we're working with the artist. I actually really appreciated them doing that. I am so glad I wasn't looking at the Twitch or YouTube chat during that segment, but just the idea that Ubisoft is like confident enough in like their games of to you know like
Well,
still include Just Dance,
like,
because
for the
Just
record,
Dance usually is...
I think it's probably still one of their top moneymakers. Like,
Oh, it is,
yeah,
but like in a like press conference sort of thing where like
it's
it's only
always
usually
there.
the most
It's
hardcore.
always there.
Yeah, but it's usually just like in the beginning
Right.
sort of thing, or like they brush it off real quick. It's like,
Yeah.
hey
Or it's
guys, we
always
got to
been
do
like a
this.
huge presence on their booth, like huge presence at their
Yeah,
booths. But yeah, I agree with you to sit there and go, all right, like Extraction and Just Dance and then Assassin's Creed, like
yeah. It's I respect their decision and confidence to do that between all their like violent games, to be like, hey, here's a refresher, here's a breather. Um, AC. I put in my notes AC. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is gonna have new DLC come out. It's like the Paris Siege, the Discovery Tour is coming out, and they
Yep.
also announced they are doing another full year next year of DLC and expansions for the game, both free and like paid, which is the first time they've ever like really done this for an Assassin's Creed game, and it probably means the next Assassin's Creed game isn't until 2023
Hmm.
potentially if you're gonna really put all this DLC out for Valhalla. Valhalla, I could not beat that game because it's so fucking long, and the idea they keep adding to it.
Yeah, the Assassin's Creed games have become a huge commitment. Huge commitments.
Yeah, and now with more DLC coming for another year, it's like they just released a DLC like a couple weeks ago, and the next one's coming in the summer, and then we'll
Right.
get another full year. Is just kind of insane. It probably this is one of those things where I look at like all the changes happening at Ubisoft in terms of at the like the top, the director thing. I wonder if this was just the way they had to do things because like there's so much changeover going on over there that they're just like, hey, let's just support Valhalla. It sells. More consoles are going to be sold on next gen. People are going to need new games, so they'll just buy Valhalla for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I expect to
And
see
support
some
it.
type of box game of the year edition this holiday for that.
But even then, like it's like, do you do a Game of the Year edition and then in the box is just like that telltale piece of paper that's like,
Yeah,
hey, and then here's your season pass for the future. We got Mythic Quest trailer, Werewolves Within movie
that doesn't look very
coming
good.
out. No, it could low key end up being like entertaining, but I don't
Yeah.
really have expectations for it. It did look a little low budget TV movie style, but it could work out for them. Uh, Far Cry 6. It, I have Far Cry popped up at two events and did the Far Cry thing of like, hey, here's super serious political Far Cry story. And then we saw at the Xbox press conference, it was like, hey, look at this fun, wacky sort of
Hmm.
experience too. So Far Cry 6, it was a very super serious cutscene of the game. I honestly didn't think the game looked good in these cutscenes. I don't know if it was like the character models just looked too stiff for me or something. But it's Far Cry. This is Ubisoft just kind of talking about how serious they took this game with the director talking about the game. You're the one who's going to be playing Far Cry this holiday. Did this make you more excited than
I
you
don't
were
at this
before?
like I'm far cried out after this weekend already.
Yeah.
In terms of the reveal, the Ubisoft Forward, the Xbox event. But I know what I'm getting with it, and it'll be a story that'll have some interesting dynamic to it. It won't go as far as it's supposed to go. It'll have some funny things to it, and the thing I'm actually the most interested with this game right now is just the weaponry. The weaponry looks so cool. Like that's what I'm most excited about is just playing a Far Cry game. I love their sandboxes, and these weapons literally look like they're made off like the back of cars. So
Yeah. What did you think about the trailer for their post launch DLC where it's like,
I,
hey,
it
here's
looks
the villains doing
real. It
horrible
looks
things?
really cool, but I have no idea what it is. Like it's like, all right, you're playing as a villain. Okay, why or what are we doing, and why is it part
Is
of the
it
season
greatest
pass?
hits?
Right.
Like, are you
Like
just gonna relive moments?
no, I think you're playing as the villain though. Like you're the villain.
Yeah, no, yeah, you are. But
Yeah.
like, are you playing through greatest hits of the previous games
Well,
as
I
the
don't want to
villain,
play as
or
I don't want to play as in a level that I know I'm going to lose.
no? That's but they made it seem like it because they're like, hey, remember this scene, and then you're seeing it from the villain's perspective. It's like, how does
Yeah.
that exactly work? How long are those sections? Could be interesting. The season pass will include that and Far Cry Blood Dragon.
Which
I know people really love that.
I
It was okay.
yeah.
Uh, though that was a weird time for Ubisoft expansions because we got that and then like Prime Evil or
Yeah,
whatever
Far
that
Cry
one was
Primal.
called.
Yeah.
Primal. Those are weird times for like Ubisoft expansions for Far Cry, but I know people did enjoy those.
Hmm.
Um, any final thoughts on Far Cry? Because I don't think we'll talk about it during the Xbox press
No, I mean
conference.
like I said the I like the trailer they showed better during the Xbox press conference just because it showed off some of I play Far Cry for the sandbox and the humor. So, and that's what I
Mhm.
saw more of. The story is fascinating to me, but um I'm not like super invested in what's going on in Cuba or the Dominican Republic or wherever it's supposed to be. Um,
Yeah.
so I don't like they whatever they do as long as the story is interesting enough that I want to see what happens next and I get to blow a bunch of stuff up. Like I'm good.
Yeah. And then they just hopefully don't fumble it at the end like they have
Yeah.
done previously. Then we got the game that was leaked. Surprisingly, it was leaked by Nintendo on the eShop.
Yeah.
Nintendo's usually really fucking good at avoiding this stuff. There was actually a couple major leaks this week, which is this kind of hilarious. But Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope,
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's what it's called, looks exactly the way you expected it, except a rabbit fucked a Luna and breeded or something. So there's like rabbit stars.
Yeah, it's Mario Galaxy now. Like they're bringing the Mario Galaxy universe into the Mario Rabbids world. So.
Yeah, it looks fun. I mean, it looks mostly of what we had seen, in the Kingdom one, the previous Rabbids game. But that's not a bad thing.
No.
Like I think that's exactly what people would want. And let's talk about this is their showstopper. Like the Mario one, I don't know if you have any specific thoughts about the Mario one.
I'm just glad it's glad it's happening and it looks cool and I think these kind of games they're great that they're still a thing.
Okay, let's get into the showstopper for Ubisoft, but for me it wasn't. We get the CEO Yves Guillemot. I forget. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm bad at French. Comes out and talks about how excited he is and gives a thank you message and then reveals Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. We've known for several years that Ubisoft is making a Avatar game.
Right.
I'm guessing it's been pushed back because the movie has been pushed back so many times. This looks, first off, graphically, visually, it looks phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Ubisoft seems like they are doing something that's like kind of risky for them in terms of like, hey, here's a very well-known IP that could sell really well, but we don't know exactly how much that will sell. But the fact that they're making it like next-gen exclusive and streaming service exclusive, I think is like a kind of a risk for them.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm happy they're willing to take that risk for something that can either sell really, really well because it's a known franchise, or because I don't know if that known franchise is big enough to be like a gaming franchise.
Yeah. I feel like it could go two ways. It could sell just because it's Avatar. It's like the box art's there and the movie's out at the same time and people are like, oh, cool. Or I'm sorry, it could sell because it's Avatar and be an average to below average game. Or it could be a really good game that people are going to be like, well, that's not an Avatar game.
Or it's a really good game. People are like, I'm not playing the fucking Avatar game.
Right.
I
guess that's kind of the same thing too of like, well, hey, if you like, I don't want to say this right away, but like if you remove Avatar from this is a really great third person cover single player story game. Because this is Ubisoft Massive. This is the Division team. This is what they've been making the Division for. I don't even know what they made before the Division, but they've been on the Division for a long time, long time. And they had to come out and talk about. They had to publicly come out and talk about what their plans are with the Division, with Avatar essentially, and Star Wars, because those are all essentially in Ubisoft Massive in Sweden.
Yes.
So there's definitely like concerns there. I was hoping, I agree with you. I think it looked really cool. It honestly made me think like I probably should go back and watch Avatar. It's been a long time since I watched it. And to get a better understanding of it. But I just wish that we would have seen a little bit more combat gameplay. Just to have a better understanding of what this game is. But I wonder if they feel like they're going to show that next E3, because it's not coming out between now and next E3.
Yeah, it's probably whenever the movie comes out, and there's going to be 4 movies, that are apparently being, made right now, back to back to back. So they might be holding for one of those movies to be released. The funny thing is with me is we know how listeners of the show, Dave knows, I'm not a fan of how Ubisoft does their open world games, and I'm not a fan of the Avatar IP. Like, I didn't like the Avatar movie. So without them showing much gameplay and what you're going to do,
right,
this immediate, nope for me, which I is a shame because like I do think the game looks really nice visually, or the cutscenes, whatever exactly we saw, it looked
Right.
really visually appealing. But I wish we got some more, like just a post show, like, hey, here's 10 minutes. We'll talk about it next because we're gonna go a little out of order with stuff. But the way Square Enix handled the Guardians game,
Mm-hmm.
I think would have been fantastic way to show
Or I
Avatar.
think if it was coming out in 6 months, then we would have
They
known
would
that they would have done it that way.
but I don't think it's coming out for a while. So
Right.
as of right now, I'm just like, oh, they're mixing two things I don't like
Mm-hmm.
together. So I'm more suspect of
You're concerned about open world checkbox game, and and
IP, I
it
don't
being
think.
an Avatar that you don't, and it being an Avatar IP that you just don't really care about. I'm hoping that, like, I'm interested if they could pull off an Uncharted style gameplay with a cool story.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
yeah. Like, I would be more interested in this if it turned out that this is going to be just like a linear
Mhm.
single player game.
Which I think
than
it
if
will be.
it could be, yeah. But we know Ubisoft loves open
Right.
world games. So if they're just like, hey, this is an open world game,
Mm.
and based on the fact that it's been in development so long, makes me think it's like, oh, this might be.
Would you be okay with like an open world linear style thing, like where it's more like progression, like you can kind of like choose which territories you take over first, but then ultimately like it's the splits onto 3 different roads, but they all converge at the end anyway style?
That sounds better, except for when you tell me like territories you take over, it just immediately I'm just like, okay, so I'm gonna climb a tower, and
Right.
then
No,
I'm
I know.
gonna,
I
like,
know.
yeah. I would be, yeah, if it turned out to be like a hub open world game where
Okay.
there's like an area you go back to and then you like keep going back and forth, that would be more interesting to me than if it's just like, here's the world of Avatar.
Mm-hmm.
You see those little points on your map, go to those and
Okay.
then clear the area. But I again, this is another thing where I'm just like, respect to them for being like, hey, next gen only. Or at least as far
Mm-hmm.
as I know, everything they advertised for this was next gen only. So glad they're going with that because they could have looked at this game as something like, oh, this has got mass appeal, put it on everything
Right.
available. And it looks like they're not going to do that unless I'm wrong. And then I take everything back. Uh, um, but that was Ubisoft, just like with Summer Games Fest. How did you think Ubisoft did with their forward this year?
I think it was fine. I think they're the ones that did the best ones last year, so this was just a continuation. They set expectations pretty early. The Mario thing, being a new game is cool. Like, so they had their little surprise. I think it's weird that Skull and Bones wasn't mentioned. We heard about that before. I still think it's weird that it wasn't talked about. And then nothing for Beyond Good and Evil.
Good and Evil.
Yeah,
Yep.
like it's just nothing.
Something, just anything to be like, hey, it's still alive.
Right. And
Would
2
have
years
been
ago, he brought the
nice.
guy on the stage with him and showed like this huge, like this 5-minute trailer at the press conference we were at. And now we're 2 years removed from that. We've seen nothing.
Yeah. We're also a year removed from him leaving because, there
Mm-hmm.
were like allegations he was a bully. So who knows what the state that game is in. But you would imagine the game would have been farther enough long that they could just insert someone and like get it to the finish line. But that doesn't seem to be the case at all.
Right.
Which makes me think when he hit the stage 2 years ago or 3 years ago, however long it was, there was no game. There was just a trailer because we have not heard anything
We could talk about
about
that
it.
when we do the Xbox thing. That Outer Worlds trailer was great.
Yeah, that was the way to handle it.
Yeah.
They talk shit about like basically everything before them and after. But yeah, I enjoyed the Ubisoft one. I feel like they are the company that are in the best rhythm with how to do these presentations. I love the hosts that they kept going back to. I think they did a really good job. I do think
Yusuf and
they're-
Neelam do great. I mean, we know both of
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
So
Yeah, and I remember the woman like yelling, not yelling, but like I remember seeing her at like an E3 like directing traffic in terms of like the press conferences. So it's nice to see them on stage because you see them enough when you go to these press conferences and stuff that's nice to see that they're like on stage and they're like the face of the company, especially right now for Ubisoft that needs like people like that to be in charge is really nice. I do wish they would like maybe not script the developers as much.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the developers every time they were introducing their things, I don't know if it was like the camera cuts and stuff, but I feel like the developers were a little too scripted. I wish they would let them talk more like off the cuff. But overall, I think Ubisoft has like the best rhythm when it comes to doing their own presentation. So I thought it was an okay show.
In terms of
I'm surprised.
showing a game, talking to the developer about the game, diving a little deeper into the game, showing another game, repeating. They do a great job.
Yes, yeah, and I noticed with this like any other year, I think I would be more critical of these presentations, but I think not having an E3 anything last year made
Right.
me way more accepting and happy with all of the presentations. You're not going to hear me really complain about any presentation like you would the previous years. All right, we're going to do Square Enix real quick because Square Enix didn't have a ton of stuff, but I think there were still some cool things in here. The big thing, like the anchor of their entire show, I believe, was Guardians of the Galaxy. So we've known for a while that Eidos Montreal, the Deus Ex developers, were working on Guardians of the Galaxy. I feel like this has been like an open rumor, confirmed new game for like
Well, Square
2-3 years.
Square signed that deal when we first saw it, when we first found out about like the Avengers project. This was kind of like sprinkled in there, where there were like at least 2 or 3 Marvel games that were being developed through Square Enix, and everybody was like freaking out about the all-star team they were developing for the Avengers project, and then it turns out that maybe like the better Marvel game's going to end up being this one.
Yeah, no, especially Guardians of the Galaxy, single player game, immediately won me over because that's what I want from this. They are doing their own thing with the visuals and the story, which is appreciated. I think the visuals for the Guardians is better than what we saw in the Avengers game.
I agree.
It's closer to the comics, but it's a nice blend of like you can see the influence of James Gunn's movies, but you can also see the influence of the comics, and they found a good way to blend that all together. But yeah, this is a single player Guardians of the Galaxy game where you play as Star-Lord. I kind of still hope that you can bounce between some of the characters. Like if there's a specific mission for that character, that would be nice. But the way they advertised it is you are Star-Lord in this game. Perfectly fine with it because I want a single player game. This is the best way to do it. And of the abilities of all the characters, he has more things he can work with, I guess. But yeah, this looked great. We got a fun trailer. We got a good, like 5 to 10 minutes of gameplay. And it's coming out in October.
Right.
Which is crazy, but it's been in development long enough.
I like that they held their cards until they were ready to show it and date it. It's like
yeah,
you're always gonna get kudos for that from me. Like, I hope it doesn't get delayed, but I think with the short window, I don't think it would get delayed. But who knows? It does look interesting. The dialogue choices are what they are at this point. I'd be curious how truly impactful they will or won't be.
Yeah, it had like a Telltale style
Right.
where when Drax throws Rocket, it'll be like Rocket is furious that you tell Drax to throw him. I wonder how much that will play into the game, but I like that there's like that light mechanic potentially there.
Yeah, I mean, it looked great.
What did you think of the gunplay? Because you're Star-Lord, so you're gonna be shooting a lot. It looked for me, it looked usable, for the most part. Nothing crazy.
Just like one of the things I thought about like this whole weekend when I saw stuff is that the HUD design just seems like really bad this year. Like Battlefield's HUD looked awful.
Yeah.
I wasn't a fan of this HUD. I think there's better ways to handle like numbers being done. But then it also looks like this game has somewhat of a combo thing or that critical or like fabulous thing in that like where it was putting
like
words up there like when you're doing
yeah.
something. So that looks like it might be interesting. And to your point, like how are you gonna use these other people? Like, are you gonna be able to direct them? Are you gonna be able to use their abilities at certain times?
It did seem like because in the gameplay, it would pop up like the diamond, and then he would be directing them to do stuff until he like was able to do his ultimate, which his ultimate is just him hitting his soundtrack, and then it looks like it like buffs everyone else while the song's playing. But there seems like there's like some light RPG mechanics in this in terms of like directing people. But yeah, like the UI almost didn't look finished in some instances. With that, like,
and I guess at this point, if your UI is not done, just don't show it.
Yeah, because it was just like plain white text in a corner that said like fabulous and fantastic.
Yeah,
right?
It had a little bit of texture to it, but the like watching the health bar, like the red bar, go down above their head, just there's better ways to do it. Like,
yeah, the health bars almost seem like something that would have been in a multiplayer game with multiple people playing it, and in the back of my head, based on how Avengers went, I will always look at this game like, were they going to do a co-op game? Right. And then Avengers happen, and they're just like, no, we're not going to.
It sounds like stuff I was reading, that this was always supposed to be a single player linear. So
yeah, I was really excited. This was a good way for Square Enix to start off the show, and based on how the rest of the show went,
this is all they had.
A reason. This is all they really had. But it looks good. The humor's good. Character design's good. Voice acting's okay. It took me a little while to get used to.
Yeah, I thought the animation was like an interesting balance between, like you were talking about, like the comic book. Like it seems like people are really happy with the writers they have on here too.
Yeah, they got a comic book.
Yeah, so like the animation giving that like realistic comic look to it. Like they're not trying to make the game look lifelike, but they've got it looks cool enough, and it has that comic book veneer on it, I guess is maybe the best word I can use to describe it. But it was interesting. Yeah, like I'm not a huge Guardians of the Galaxy like comic book fan. Looking at the main character, who I'm totally spacing on his name right now, Star-Lord. That it was a little jarring at first because like I'm just used to Star-Lord being Chris Pratt, but it's fine. Like that's a me thing. That's a me thing. So.
I was relieved it wasn't just Chris Pratt, as opposed to Avengers when I was really upset and it wasn't Chris Evans.
Right.
You know, I'm having the opposite feeling with Guardians where I'm just like, oh, thank God it's not Chris Pratt. I don't need to see Chris Pratt in another thing. He's in every fucking movie. So I was happy with that. I like that, like, Gamora, like, actually looked like her comic height in the thing, and it's like just little things like that I'm like, okay, she's supposed to be like towering over like Drax and Peter Quill, Star-Lord. So I was happy with that. I love Gamora's comic book design, so I'm glad they're not really doing like their own take on it. But it seems like they're doing their own take on her personality, giving her more of a nerdy personality, more quippy. Happy with that. This went beyond my expectations. We knew this was going to be the thing that they showed because they announced like, hey, Eidos is going to show their next game.
Right.
But I think, based on how Avengers went, they had like I had low expectations for it, and they like surpassed that. And now this is one of the games I'm excited to play.
Yep.
It's
like fall. A top 3 thing that I think came out of this event. Like I'm like, oh, okay. Like, you know, top 3, top 5 for me. Like Guardians. Like, okay, well, that's on the radar this fall for sure.
Yeah. They followed this up by saying like, hey, Avengers still exists, and they're gonna do the Black Panther DLC. Looks good. I mean,
it's gonna be free.
Black Panther.
So
yeah, it's going to be free.
That's interesting.
DLC's free.
Like, well, they were calling this an expansion, and when they first announced this a couple months ago, but they made it a point today to say like this is free for all players.
Yeah, it looks good. I'm not interested in the Avengers games, and this looks cool because like we haven't really had Black Panther in any games outside of like cameos and
Wakanda looks really cool, but is it going to be one of those things where you just go there for like 3 hours and you're done?
Yeah, looks good. Maybe since it's free, it'll just be added to my game, and
but then you got to worry about like, are you of level? Like that's the thing that they got to answer. Like, are they is there going to be a boost?
Yeah, the way they've been doing it with the other 2 expansions that they've released, you just have to have played through a certain point of the single player game.
Okay.
Or have finished it, and then you can.
I just think you need to be careful because they're being very specific on calling things DLC and calling things expansions. This Black Panther thing is the first thing that they've used the word expansion on.
Yeah. Um, we got some mobile game stuff. The one that, like, I was surprised like everyone freaked out about in a bad way is Babylon's Fall. Um, because it looks completely different than what it looks like when they first showed it, and it looks like it. I saw people saying it was a games as a service thing. I kind of checked out as like within like 10 or 20 seconds of this trailer because I just
I think I might have done a bathroom
wasn't
run when this
interested.
came up. So like,
Yeah, yeah. So they went with a new art style. I don't know if it was successful, this new art style,
everything I saw,
but
people said it looked rough, and then they're concerned about a games as a service from this game because that's not the player that I think that you were going after with Babylon is not the games as a service player.
yeah, especially when it's Platinum Games as the developer,
Right.
like that sets certain expectations. So I don't know if anyone was really happy with this. We got a Life is Strange update. You got to look at the new game and a look at the remastered one. I love Life was Strange, but I kind of cracked up when they did that swipe from like this is what the original looks like and this is what the remastered version looks like, and very minimal differences between them. But I mean, I will probably still pick them up and mess with it, but it was okay.
It's interesting to me,
Um,
to me because I haven't played them.
yeah. Uh, I don't know if you would like them, but
Yeah,
it
Angela
might be
saw the
worth
trailer
trying.
and she's like, "Hey, that might be interesting." And maybe it's something she plays, or maybe it's something that I don't know if she gets. Like, is there how dynamic is the gameplay? Is that kind of more like a kickback, relax kind of thing, or is there a lot of
I mean, it gets intense, but it's basically like a slightly more interactive Telltale game. In terms of like you're making decisions. It's basically
okay,
mostly like what decisions you make. But you have the area is a little bit more open than like a Telltale game. Like
right,
Telltale is usually confined to a room.
okay,
You might be in like a building and you're trying to make decisions and stuff. And I think they actually do a better job of like making your decisions feel like they matter
hmm
in the game as compared to like a Telltale game.
It sounds like if I pick up the new True Colors game, I get everything, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's
Yeah,
like a special edition for
yeah,
True Colors or a deluxe edition that comes with everything.
yeah. It
But
looked
like
cool. Like I think, like it's
yeah,
definitely a different, a dynamic, a cool story arc that they're telling.
the last thing was the thing that was leaked a couple weeks ago, and that is the new Final Fantasy game, Final Fantasy Origin, Stranger of Paradise. This is coming
I want to kill chaos.
from. Oh my god!
I want to
So
kill
this is
chaos. I'm like, what is going on?
this is
It
from
didn't look
Koei
very good
Tecmo.
either.
No, not at all. What I forget the studio. It's not it's
I was like,
Team Ninja or something.
is this name
Uh
called Chaos? Is like, is this game called Chaos somewhere?
what I was confused about is the art style. So this is Team Ninja. This is like the Ninja Gaiden
Okay,
developers.
all right.
Uh and this is supposed to be like there was rumors this is like their attention at Souls
Mm-hmm.
and like a action RPG. And I'm just baffled by like some of the art design for this in terms of like everyone's all fantasy, but the one dude is kind of just dressed like he's from Dexter,
Uh huh.
and he's like a dude bro kind of, and he just makes dumb noises and says random shit when he's killing things, and he just wants to kill chaos. I have no idea who exactly this is for.
Yeah, and it's like a new Final Fantasy branch. Is that what they were kind of talking about?
Yeah, like a new way. Like I think they're hoping they
Format
can
or
make
something?
like yeah, like they can do like different things with the Final Fantasy franchise. And man, I really wish they ended with 16. Like this was such a weird thing,
Yeah, but isn't that like
and
gonna be like on a PlayStation stage?
I would assume it would have to
Yeah.
be on the PlayStation stage, but it's just so weird. And it's 2022, which means
It's
I
not.
think the
It's not
hope.
2022. Like, I'm sorry. Like,
Well,
please
since
don't be 2022. Like, it's not ready.
well,
So,
it's just a matter of like, is Square confident enough to have this happen before 16 or after 16? Because
it
16 will
should.
be
It's
big.
yeah. It should be after 16 because 16 looks way better than this already.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly what they're going
I'll
for
have to
this.
talk
I
to a
would,
couple people that are much deeper into that world than I am. Like, I'll have to talk to Wyatt and stuff and see what's going on with like what
I
they're showing.
Sarah,
So,
and she was like, "What the fuck is this?" Like I don't know what they're doing with this. I'll ask my friends that are super into like the action combat game
yeah.
to be like, does this appeal to you? Because everyone I know that's likes Final Fantasy on Twitter was like, what the fuck is this?
Mm-hmm.
So I need to know if it will actually appeal to the action fans. So I don't.
Yeah, from
know
a
exactly
hacker
what's going on.
slasher game, like a hack and slash combat game, it didn't appeal to me.
Yeah.
But I also don't really think they showed enough other than this guy just like climbing this gigantic dungeon saying he wants to kill Chaos. So
Yeah.
I don't even know who Chaos is.
He was that guy. At the end, I have no idea. What the fuck that was. Again, I'm pretty positive with these presentations, so I will say because of Guardians, I think the Square one was a success.
No,
I just don't know.
They're fine. I think that
Yeah.
they showed a little bit too much mobile, in my opinion, which is fine, I guess. But I mean, like, I just feel like E3 is kind of like console PC video gaming. Like, I think you could have done something pretty cool at like an Apple showcase or at an Android showcase for showing off stuff. But it was just really weird. Like the games, like those Final Fantasy, like whatever, 2, 3, 4, 5 coming to Steam and mobile. It's like just kind of interesting decisions.
Yeah. They pushed on mobile.
So apparently Chaos and Garland are Final Fantasy 1 bad guys.
Okay.
Sure.
That makes sense. Thanks. Yeah. Is this what you want, Wyatt? That is Wyatt, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wyatt. Also, hi Bulldogs 1992. I see you in the chat. We get lost in the conversation a little bit.
Yeah.
But I guess they're Final Fantasy 1 bad guys, but I still don't know who this exactly appeals to just yet.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll have a good story, but I feel like that protagonist was like not what I would expect from a Final Fantasy game.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
He just said it doesn't seem like it, but that he needs to see more.
Yeah, I don't know exactly the appeal to this, but decent show. Any other thoughts with Square Enix?
It was fine. Like, I think that, like they only took up like 35 minutes, 45 minutes, so they're good.
Yeah,
so.
they breezed right through it. But let's get to the big part of the show. I mean, the thing that we're probably going to spend the most time on, even though we're already an hour into this. It's the Xbox Bethesda press conference. Personally, before the show was really excited for this, and again, because we're so far removed from E3, I think that's what kept my excitement going throughout most of the show. But my expectations were high for this show. I don't know if they quite reached it, but I think they got close.
I'd agree.
I don't know how you're feeling.
I would agree.
Okay.
I think starting with Starfield was a mistake because you didn't show anything.
Yeah, but did you see that in like 30 minutes before the show, the Starfield trailer was posted on Washington Post?
I think I saw something like that. So do you think that they flipped the show because that happened?
I don't know, because I feel like Starfield felt like an ending trailer. That trailer felt like something you would end the show
Not with the date.
Because compared to what they showed Redfall to end it. And I feel like Starfield might have been. I have mixed feelings. I like that they got it out of the way, so people wouldn't just spam "Where's Starfield? Where's Starfield? Where's Starfield?" But I also felt like because they didn't show any gameplay, it felt like something you would just end the show with.
Yeah, I think beginning and ending with Bethesda, to me, is a little concerning, because it seemed like it was more. I felt like it was a little bit more Bethesda than it was Xbox. The whole show overall.
Because they're used to releasing games. Let's be completely fair.
That's fine, but that's the part that's concerning to me is that there's some stuff that Xbox showed last year that wasn't even mentioned today.
Yeah, there was no Hellblade,
Yeah, no Fable,
no Fable, no
no
Avowed was mentioned.
yeah, Avowed was mentioned.
A Fable was technically mentioned, but it was like a 3-second
Yeah,
footage from the last
so
trailer we
I
saw
mean,
last year.
I was hoping overall that we'd get some more things coming out this holiday from them, possibly. I'm not naive to think that like Hellblade was coming this holiday or anything, but um, there's definitely there's a point where like their non-Bethesda studios got to release some stuff like soon.
They definitely need to, though. I think they are fully aware with it based on how many deals they signed,
Hmm.
because a lot of the stuff in here was console exclusive for
Hmm.
launch or coming to Game Pass.
Yeah, I
Like
mean, it definitely like I mean, like this was a validation of a Game Pass purchase. Like 27
yeah,
of the 30 games they showed were on Game Pass. I can't think of the third one, but it was Battlefield 2042 and it was
Far
Far
Cry.
Cry, and I can't think of the third one that's not going to be on Game Pass. But so, um, but it was definitely of a validation to purchase Game Pass, and they got that they got some good third party gets that are going to be on Game Pass. Like they got some great third party gets that are going to be on Game Pass,
Yeah.
and and even if they're going to be console exclusive for 6 months, like there's definitely a reason to dip into the Xbox ecosystem after today's event.
I it almost got so ridiculous. I was kind of tired of that
Play day
chime
one
or
Game
that like
Pass. Like,
yeah, I got kind of tired about of that
yeah,
thing
I would have
because it
rather
would
them said,
end
"Hey, like, hey,
everything past this point.
yeah, is on Game Pass." Like, just don't show me console exclusive anymore. Don't show me. I guess you can show console exclusive because that's a reason to buy your platform. I don't need if you put the Game Pass logo at the end of it. I don't need to know that it's available day one in Game Pass. Like, obviously, it's gonna be on
I
day.
If they just removed that audible sound
Yeah.
that it made every time, it would have probably been a little bit better. But yeah, Starfield was shown 11/11/22. They love doing things with their numbers. I really thought maybe they would do 2/2/22,
Uh-huh.
but I guess they were cowards and they're doing 11/11/22. I think it will hit that date. I think it will actually hit that
But
date.
what
It's
is it?
far enough out. What do you mean?
What is
The
Starfield?
game?
Yeah.
Because it's Bethesda, it is going to be a first or third person game, probably both. Um, RPG set in space. It's just going to be a Fallout or Elder Scrolls game. I
Okay.
don't think they're going to do anything drastic or crazy with this. It's just going to be here's this in space. It they probably looked at Outer Worlds and they're like, that's what we're going to do too. Um, but yeah, I wish we could talk more about Starfield
Mm-hmm.
if they showed more. But
Mm-hmm.
all we can talk about is like it's real still and it has a date.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all we can really say about how Starfield was. Um, I guess we'll wait till next year when we'll actually get some gameplay for it. Um, no mention of Elder Scrolls, obviously, because they got to get Starfield out too soon.
Well,
No,
hold up.
actually, Phil
Here,
Spencer
hang on.
mentioned
Hey,
Elder Scrolls.
let's back up a second because they did it. They did exactly what I wanted them to do. Xbox exclusive.
Mhm.
Like
Oh, yes, yes.
yeah. I mean, and they put that to bed. Like they're like they said it. They didn't talk about play.
Said it. They put it on the
Yeah,
visual.
they didn't
The
talk about
wording,
play it where Game Pass is available. Like it's exclusive to Xbox, and
and they did
so
that with
is
other Bethesda
yeah.
games.
Like they're like these like they bought Bethesda. They own Bethesda. Bethesda games are on their platform. You won't be able to get new games on other
Yeah.
platforms. Like it's not gonna happen.
You will only be getting Elder Scrolls Online expansions if you're on PlayStation from Bethesda. That's going to be the only thing
But it also leads me to
after.
believe that 6 is coming to Xbox only.
Yes, yeah,
Like,
totally. Especially 6 is so far out.
yeah,
Why would they bring it to anyone else? Because at that point, you would hope that they're like fully entrenched in whatever they're
yeah,
doing, and Game Pass is still around.
yeah. Like
Uh,
they drew the line in the sand, and they said Bethesda is part of the Xbox family, and it's on our platform.
yeah. The next test will be Indiana Jones. That'll be the next one.
But at this point in time, I
Which
expect it just to be like,
Oh no, I expect it to be it too. Even if Disney was like, well, that's not what we agreed to, and then Microsoft just being like, well, how much more money are we having to give you?
Right.
You know. But yeah, they drew that line in the sand, and they reiterated it once more at the end of the show. Like they bookend it with two Bethesda games, being like, these are exclusive to Xbox. That's it. No, don't hold out hope. Don't complain. This is just how it's going to be.
And I like that they were Series S and X.
Yeah, yeah. They're bought into having to do that, and they've
No. But they're not coming to Xbox One.
Oh yeah.
Like that's what I was like. The stuff that they showed that's not out yet is like we're kind of past that point where they were talking about like the cross-gen stuff.
Yeah. Now them and Sony have now completely switched positions in terms
ironic.
of just like, yeah.
And people were pointing and laughing at Xbox for saying it, and now Sony didn't say it, but Sony's doing it, and Microsoft has kind of just said it and kind of moved away from it, and people are okay with it. Like it's
but the fanboys will still get their pitchforks out and tell them like, oh, they're abandoning their fan base on Xbox.
If you don't own Game Pass and you own a Xbox system or a PC that can play games even at an average to above average rate, I saw it today. Like you can get Xbox Game Pass for like $1 for like 3 months. Just try it. Like there's so much in there.
If you have Live already, if you bought 3 years of Live, you can convert that for very cheap to Ultimate. So, we got Stalker 2. I'm not the biggest Stalker fan. I was happy to see that Stalker is like hit this point that is on the stage. Like that it followed up fucking Starfield, which is pretty insane for a Stalker game. The thing I was so excited for, Back 4 Blood, got the big news. It leaked before, but Back 4 Blood is going to be day one Game Pass on PC and Xbox Game Pass.
Awesome.
That is fucking huge. It makes sense for Warner Brothers, who's currently in like a weird financial, like.
It makes sense for any game that's going to rely on some type of continuous player base and seasonal. There's going to be monetization in this game, so you just get instant player base, like an instant player base. And whether people like me saying or don't like me saying it just means I don't have to buy it on PS5. I don't have to risk it. If it flops in the first 3 months, I didn't invest anything into it. Like I don't want it to flop. I'm not sitting there saying like Back 4 Blood's going to flop, but you know, like we've all been burned by games before, and Game Pass is saving you from being burned. Like there's already some stuff you're going to be playing on there, and
especially like how many times have you bought a multiplayer game that dies within like a couple weeks?
Yeah,
you know, like, and then Back 4 Blood's doing it right. Like I feel like if you're a third party and you sign up for Game Pass, you should enable crossplay. There should be no hesitation to crossplay enabled, because you're just going to help yourself more.
Yeah, word of mouth again, just like Outriders. Word of mouth. Hey, it's fun. If you don't have like, all right, well, you know, 3 of us play it. Oh, I have it. We all have Game Pass. Like, oh, I don't have an Xbox. Well, get it. You can play with us. Get it on your PlayStation. You can play with us, and we'll jump into Discord. We can play, and they don't feel isolated. Like it's great. Like
Also, Microsoft did the thing that we complained about with Game Pass like last year, of their PC and console library being vastly different. I feel like a majority of the games we saw today are coming to both PC Game Pass and Xbox Game Pass, which is cool. Outside of like the tactical, you know, like the RTS games, those
a game built for mouse and keyboard is not coming to console. Sorry. Like
yes,
you can. I'm aware you can plug a mouse and keyboard into an Xbox, but like they're not doing that.
Yeah. But we saw more and more games that are just coming to both, which is so nice for that. And it's going to be huge for Back 4 Blood. Like I'm excited about that. We got kind of a nothing trailer from Avalanche Studios for a game called Contraband. We got
a nothing trailer.
There wasn't even anything exciting in a trailer, unlike the Redfall trailer that at least had
open world co-op.
Visuals.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
This is the Just Cause team, right?
There's 2 Avalanches. I have to check that.
Okay.
I was actually just going to look that now. But yeah, it was kind of a nothing trailer. I mean, if that's the art style for the game, that looks cool. But I don't really know if I can say one way or the other, like, all right, this game's going to be a winner. But hey, this is Microsoft signing a deal with a third party to get an exclusive, which cracks me up that I did immediately see comments on Twitter being like, "Oh, look at Microsoft signing deals with third parties to keep them exclusive to their own console," and it's just like, that's the name of the game.
Yeah.
That's literally what Sony's been doing, and that is how the shit works. Like, you can't be mad at one for doing it and are okay with the other.
And if you think Avalanche didn't go to Sony and ask for the same thing, you're naive.
Yeah, and this is the Just Cause Mad Max team, so
Okay.
they at least have a pedigree
Of
to
chaos,
do,
like a chaos style game. Yeah. Which is cool.
Yeah. This is something that I just am surprised it didn't happen already, but Sea of Thieves is getting a Pirates of the Caribbean expansion, and it looks really good. I don't know the scope of it, but I know Pirates fans have been wanting a Pirates of the Caribbean game after like the last one got canceled. This looks pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Like, I might download Sea of Thieves on Game Pass.
And it's free. Like, it's like it's just part of their live service game now. Like, and again, I'm sorry, but it's a Microsoft first party studio. It's always going to be on Game Pass, and they're going to keep updating the game. So why not? Like,
there's no reason for them not to. Something I was really excited about. 12 Minutes is a indie game that's been floating around for probably 5+ years.
Yeah.
Maybe a little longer.
Like a Groundhog Day style game, right?
Yeah, it takes place over the course of 12 minutes, and you're constantly just like going into loop trying to change things. You're going back to previous points in your life, and you only have 12 minutes to change things, hoping it changes the future. It's really cool. I believe it's an Annapurna game. It stars actually James McAvoy, Daisy
It is an
Ridley,
Annapurna game. It is, yeah.
Yeah. And Willem Dafoe. So it has like an all-star voice cast that like Annapurna just like gave this indie developer all this money to like, hey, we're gonna really go for it. This is something I've been excited about for years, and I've been waiting for a release date for. So it's coming out soon. It's in August, and it's Game Pass day one. Like, I'm sorry. I mean, anyone who's mad that we're talking about Game Pass right now, we're just talking about this press conference, and it just happened to be a very important.
It's a big get though. Like, it was cool when it was announced, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, like it's just on this service that's available for you to play. Like, it's great. Like, it's a game that like I'm looking at like, okay, like that looks really cool. It looks really interesting. Do I want to spend $30 on it, $40 on it, $50 on it? I don't even know how much it would have cost, but now I don't have to worry about that. If I want to check it out, I check it out. If I hate it, I hate it.
Yeah.
Like, if I love it, I've got another game to play. Like,
and for me, this would have been.
It's called 12 Minutes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No joke. This would have been a day one purchase for me, no matter what. And it would have been a day one purchase on PlayStation, because the PlayStation is still my go-to console. Now it's a day one download on Xbox. Yep. You know, like they moved me over to that for this game. Because I know it sounds weird. I mean, and it's not weird, but like, even though I have my Xbox Series X, I still, if I like
it's
a game
just
enough,
another notch.
PlayStation.
It's another thing. Like, you start thinking like, you know, after like a couple weeks, like, oh, do I really need Game Pass? And then something else comes out, and you're like, okay, there's a mark. And then you play it for 2 or 3 weeks, and like, do I need it anymore? Like, I've been through it. Like, I haven't played like, I play Destiny with my buddies on Xbox, and I don't have to pay for anything because it's part of Game Pass. That's 90% of what I use it for. But then something like this happens, and I'm like, huh, you know, like I don't know where we're at in the list, but Hades on Game Pass, like, like, that's cool. So I want to see if it grabs my attention any better, like not on a Switch. Like, is it going to run a little bit better and just feel a little bit easier with the controllers? Like, I bought Hades on the Switch. I'll still play it, but I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm gonna play it on the X. It's probably just gonna run better by default. Yeah, it's gonna run better by default. Like, the S is more powerful than the Switch. Like,
well, like you were saying, like, so for me, it was a day one purchase. Now it's a day one download on the Xbox. And for you, if I like it enough, you're probably going to download it, or you were probably going to download it no matter what. But if I'm like, Dave, you need to at least give this game a shot.
Yeah.
Now it's not going to be like, it's $30. I'll wait for a sale. It's like, oh, fuck it. I'm going to just download it. And then, you know,
Yep.
Even if it's only on the service for like 3 months, if
Yep.
you like it enough, you'll probably end up buying it.
Yeah. Support the dev after that. Like,
Yep. Uh, Psychonauts 2. We got a quick trailer gameplay. This is coming to everything, PS4, PS5, Series X, S, PC, cloud gaming. This is coming to everything, Macs, Linux in the future. But because it is a Microsoft studio, it's coming to Game Pass day one. It looks great. Like they recently did Psychonauts 1 to Game Pass earlier this year, and Psychonauts is one of those games that I always wanted to play but never got around to it. Now I have until August 25th
right.
for me to get through that first game before I pick it up. Because this was a game that, honestly, because I have not played the first one, I was not going to buy day one.
Right.
I am now going to play this game day one.
Yeah.
Fallout 76 is going to Pittsburgh. Fallout 3 fans will know Pittsburgh had like an expansion DLC for that game, so they're just expanding the Fallout 76 universe. That looks, it's Fallout 76.
Mm-hmm.
I know we have some listeners that are super into it that are trying to get me to go back to it, and I just every time I download it, play a little bit, I fall off. But now they're getting closer and closer to that, like, oh, that's Fallout 3 stuff they're kind of fucking with.
Right.
That kind of gets me interested. We had there's like party animals that just looks like game beasts with pets. There's the game replaced Somerville. We basically got like two or three indie games in a row before we got Halo Infinite. Halo Infinite, Dave, I don't know about you. It looks fucking great. But then they hit me with that release window and not a release date.
I don't get it.
I immediately was concerned.
Yeah, I don't understand. Unless they're going to do some type of direct event for Halo, like in July or August. Like, I don't understand why you wouldn't date it. Like, that's a huge mistake.
That's a red flag for me. So let's talk, like, the multiplayer looks great. It looks like exactly what you'd want from a Halo multiplayer experience. Visually, it does look better, but all the wind was taken out of my sails as soon as I saw holiday 2021 and I didn't see a date. It's just a little concerning that they haven't put a date on it yet.
Yeah, no, it's very concerning. So,
but they reiterated Halo multiplayer is going to be free, and then you can buy paying. Cool. It's also day one Game Pass, and it's just something that, if it comes out this year, has potential to be big. I'm hoping the multiplayer continues to look as good as it did in that trailer.
I got a bad feeling that we're going to get the multiplayer and then we're going to get the campaign like in January, February.
They reiterated that it would be coming at the same time, but yeah, the fact that they didn't give a date just freaks me out. I'm immediately when it said holiday 21, I'm like, oh, they're going to go back on stage and Phil Spencer's going to be like, here's the release date or something, and he didn't do it. We got Diablo 2 gameplay or trailer. Looks good. I'm not the biggest Diablo
That must
person.
have been the game that's not a Game Pass then. The third one.
Yeah, that was the the third one. Something I was really excited for. I think there was an audible gasp when this game was announced, and that's A Plague Tale Requiem. This was actually leaked a couple days ago. Part of the leak was also they're going to remaster the game for PS5 and Xbox Series X.
Nice. Okay.
That wasn't announced here, so there's still hope that if that was leaked with this, then like this happened. So then the remaster must be happening.
Yeah.
So, but Requiem is a direct sequel to A Plague Tale: Innocence. Plague Tale it was my game of the year in 2019. It is definitely like one of my top 10 for game of generation for the PS4, Xbox One era. So happy to have this game get a sequel. Just because this was one of those games I saw at E3 like so many years in a row, and then when it came out, it was actually good.
Yeah.
And like me and Sarah played this in one sitting, one 12-hour sitting. We played the first one. Because we were just that into this game. So it getting a sequel I was so excited. And it's coming Game Pass day one. Which probably means if they are going to remaster the first one, like the rumor and the leak said, the remaster will probably also be coming to that. Slime Rancher 2, Shredders, Atomic Heart, Uh, they were all shown. A couple of these games, you just have to look at the trailer. Like me and Dave aren't going to be able to do the best
Yeah.
explanation for some of the like the smaller indie games. Grounded is adding achievements, adding a bunch of new
It's essentially
like
coming out.
content. Yeah, basically. Uh, I had to be corrected by someone I was talking to recently when I was like, "Oh, Grounded kind of came and went," and then they informed me like, "No, Grounded is super popular
Yeah.
still," and I was like completely surprised to find that out. Looks fun, but that's it didn't do anything for me.
I'll be right back.
Okay, we'll be right back. All right, how's the chat going? I don't know if he muted me or not, or if he just walked away. Uh, he had to run. I'm assuming he's gonna go cough and die. I'm just glad I'm not editing this. Okay, good. I could get a drink because I'm out of drink, but uh, awkward part is I'm not going to edit this out of the YouTube video when I upload that. So it's just going to be me sitting here checking my Twitter account. And tweeting. It's gonna be really entertaining for the few people that watch the YouTube replays. And know Dave had a weak bladder.
All right. Sorry about that.
It's okay. Hopefully you didn't pause recordings or anything.
Nope.
Okay, smart man.
You think I am like a rookie?
You never know. If you had to go to the bathroom real bad, you might have just panic pause.
All right.
Luckily, I was looking at the actual camera and not just reading.
All right. We're good.
All right. Following up the grounded stuff, we had Udian Chronicle. I'm mispronouncing that. This looked really cool. It was like the 2D sprites on like almost photorealistic 3D backgrounds. Reminded me of that game that I am blanking on that came to the Switch that was really good. Hopefully, someone will correct me or will add that name in the Twitch chat. But it had oh, it's gonna bother the hell out of me because I own the game on Switch. Octopath Traveler.
There you go. He did it.
There we go. It reminded me of Octopath
Oh,
Traveler,
the sprites and stuff.
but with a
Yeah.
more
Okay.
realistic background. Yeah, this was super interesting. This is a game that I definitely will want to try out. Um, but I think it's a 2023, 2022, something like that. This game's kind of far out, I thought I saw. Um, but I'm interested in playing this. I know you're not the biggest like RPG fan like this or JRPG fan.
I like. I just don't. I used to love them. I just don't know if I can just commit the time, effort, and energy to them anymore.
I will start half a dozen every year and never finish them, especially on like portable platforms. This would be perfect. I can see myself using Xbox Game Cloud.
That's what like
For
that initially. Like I was thinking about that. A lot of people recommended Octopath Traveler for the cloud gaming.
Yes.
So like I
it
think
would work really well. So.
Yeah.
Then there was the Ascent, which is like a solo or co-op action RPG like shooter. Age of Empires. Got the trailer for the Outer Worlds 2, which was basically just an honest game trailer for it, where they just made fun out of how video game trailers are, to where it's like, here's a silhouette of our character because our devs have not finished designing him, and it just they narrated, you know, how shitty trailers are for games that aren't actually in active development yet. But it was really fun. Holy shit, is Obsidian busy?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is just another game being added to all the stuff that they're currently working on. Grounded, Avowed. There's another game they're working on. I forget the name of that. And then you have Outer Worlds 2. They're going to become the workhorse at Microsoft, apparently, releasing games. Microsoft Flight Simulator finally coming to consoles.
That's cool.
Super
Yeah.
fascinated to see this work on consoles. I have faith they can do it, but
it's supposed to be like a really
play?
realistic view of the. You could supposed to be able to like fly over your neighborhood and stuff, right?
Yeah, because it's using Google Map data, I believe, with like their AI data to like recreate maps. So I said Obsidian is fighting to be the workhorse of Microsoft, but the actual workhorse, current champion, is Playground Studios. The Forza Horizon team are actually going to release Forza Horizon 5 before we get, was it Forza 8 is the next one, Forza 7. So we're going to get Horizon 5, takes place in Mexico. This game looks gorgeous from what they were showing me. I prefer the Horizon games because they're less sim and more arcadey. I get like a Need for Speed vibe every time I play like the Horizon games. This looked like, I was so impressed with how good this game looks.
It looked like a better version
game.
of The Crew.
Yeah. That's basically what the Horizon series has been. It's just like a more focused Crew, therefore they can actually pull off what they're trying to do. Playground has released 5 Horizon games, and they're currently working on Fable as well. So like to me, when they first showed like the guy with the Playground Studios behind the logo behind him, I'm like, cool, we're gonna get Fable, and then he's like, Horizon 5, and it's coming this year. I was just like, my mind was blown of just like, how the fuck does a studio continue to like make these games? And then they also have Fable like on the back burner, just ready to go. Dave, any thoughts on Horizon 5?
The
just other than
connectivity,
the fact that
the live service connectivity looked really cool in terms of like joining mini games and making your own races and building like that arena thing. It just looked like it might be fun to mess around with. And again, it's I hate to be this guy, but it's one of those things where it's going to be on Game Pass, so it's just great to mess with it. You don't have to feel the obligation to buy it. Like, oh, I can check it out. Like, oh, I like it. And then you can just keep playing it.
Especially, like, when you want to show off your new console, racing games are so good at showing off what the new console can do. So the idea that you could just, like, oh, I just want to show my friend this, and you just download it and then just throw it away after you're done showing it.
But it also doesn't look like it's a kick-your-ass racing game.
No. Yeah, it's more arcadey than sim. That's like the whole benefit of like the Horizon series over Motorsport. Then the last thing we got was Arcane Austin, the Dishonored studio. They showed Redfall, which looks cool. We didn't see actual gameplay. It was a very cinematic trailer. But this is basically Left 4 Dead with vampires, and you play as a characters.
It's a hero shooter, a hero class shooter.
Yeah. You're the character you're playing has like superpowers basically.
I like
the different tech abilities.
Some of the combo stuff that they were like teasing, like setups from different class, freezing somebody, stuff like that. Like it looked, the animation looked really cool too.
Yeah, no, all that stuff looks really cool. This doesn't look like this is coming out anytime soon. But this is another Bethesda game that they reiterated at the end is console exclusive for Xbox. So, again, they bookend the show with Bethesda games. They sprinkled Bethesda games in between. They also added basically all the Bethesda games that were missing when the deal was first signed to Game Pass. Like the first 3 Fallout games on PC, Fallout 3, Wolfenstein 2, Doom, Evil Within. All that stuff was added to Game Pass today. And then they had two new Bethesda game announcements today, Bethesda game announcements today that they said were console exclusive. So, I still think Xbox will run Bethesda as a separate company.
I agree.
Like they're not going to just fold them in. I think you'll still see like Chris Hines at these shows just because it's such a big company. Uh, but I liked what Microsoft did. I think the only mistake they did was
Not dating
not
Halo.
dating Halo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, I think this was a really good show. It did make me upset that there's no PlayStation show
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Hmm.
Just because God, I wish PlayStation was going Monday because like PlayStation could have some cool stuff, and I miss that
But
competition.
people that got mad at like
Uh,
Starfield today being announced and dated for this time for November next year, like we don't even know when Horizon's coming out.
yeah, and it's
Like,
supposed to be this year.
yeah,
Yeah,
we don't know the fact that they inevitably like I hope it doesn't happen, but even if it gets delayed, at least there's like there's a reach there. There's hope, you know.
yeah.
So I just I agree with you that it's disappointing that Sony's not there, but like at this point in time, like what would they show?
I know that, and that's the thing is like Sony will probably have a really fucking interesting like TGS, or if they want to do like a something in the holidays, because then like because Sony just signed a new studio
Mm-hmm.
to another third party studio to an exclusive game deal. It's like
Gunpoint,
Deviation Studio,
deviation, yeah, deviation.
or Deviant something. They just signed another third party deal, so who knows if that stuff will all be ready. Like PlayStation definitely they skipped this year's E3. If they want to return next E3, they can probably have a really fucking cool show.
Mm-hmm.
Like they could have a really good show. But yeah, I just miss Sony just because like this felt like E3. Like the Xbox press conference felt like E3, and I just miss that Sony isn't going to follow up, with an answer. But again, uh, Microsoft, Bethesda, whatever you want to call it, they did a great show, but the only thing that will stick with me the rest of the day and for the next couple weeks is why Halo didn't get a release date.
Yep.
Uh, I was really expecting, like when we talked about predictions for this, and I said they were going to do 15 minutes on Halo, and they did what, like less than 5, 2 to 5
Yeah, they spent less than
for
10
Halo.
minutes on the fanboys that always say they spent less than 10 minutes on Halo, Forza, Gears.
Yeah. They packed a bunch of stuff in the show, but I was really expecting this to be a showcase for Halo. Maybe they'll announce like a Halo event for later in the summer. Maybe they already have because I'm not the most in on that
Mm-hmm.
Halo community. But yeah, opinions on how that show went?
Really well. Probably the best showcase that Xbox has had in 3 or 4 years.
Yes.
So very happy with what I saw. Happy with some dates. Happy with some reaches. Happy to look. It's like you said. It appears that Bethesda is just its own entity. That's
Yeah.
just incorporated with Microsoft now.
It just makes the most sense because Bethesda was so many studios. You need someone like Chris Hines to just like run that. You don't want to just put all that on Phil Spencer. Obviously, he's still in charge of everything like that, but like Hines becoming like the second in command over there because he's running half the studios now just makes sense. Um, but really happy with the way this went. I have little to no expectations for how Monday is going to go. I
Yeah.
have some expectations for how Tuesday when Nintendo is going to go, but I'm still looking forward to everything. I still need to watch the Back for Blood gameplay thing. They did like a 15-minute live stream
Yeah, I missed that
earlier
too.
today.
So.
But there's still stuff.
Capcom sprinkled in there somewhere too. Capcom might have some cool stuff.
Yeah, I think Capcom. I want to say Sega has something, and then
Nintendo's Tuesday
um,
morning.
yeah, Nintendo's Tuesday morning. Bandai Namco is doing something, but I don't know if that's just going to be for Scarlet Nexus or if they're going to do something for Elden Ring. But it's exciting to see this stuff. I was really hoping E3 was actually going to, like me and Dave got approved for media for E3 this year, but turns out that like meant literally nothing.
Yeah.
for how they set that up for media, but pleasantly surprised with how this weekend went press conference wise. So can't get any worse, or like it can get worse, but like I think that the high's already been set, so I'm fine.
Yeah, agreed. So, all right, that is our E3 weekend recap. I guess that's probably what we'll call this. So we should be back on Tuesday with a regular show, numbered show, going over some of the other little tidbits left over from E3. Probably dig into Ratchet and Clank a little bit. Michael and I both been playing it, so that'll be recorded Tuesday night on Twitch and probably go live Wednesday or Thursday on the podcast feed. So thanks a lot for hanging out in the chat tonight. Thanks for listening. Leave a review, subscribe if possible if it's your first time listening. I promise you I don't always sound like this. I'm just still getting over a cold. Michael always
something worse than a cold.
Yeah. But please consider subscribing, reviewing if you can, sharing the show. That always helps. There's a bunch of show links in the notes for Discord group, Facebook, all those things. And we'll talk to you guys later on in the week.
Don't be a dick. We'll see you guys in a couple days.